Great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Russell Haswell. Hi. And we were actually thinking to start with maybe some audio. Can we do that? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I think we can start the conversation. Many thanks, Russell.
Completely contrary to what I expected, I want to ask a question first. We had agreed that Hans would start. And it's not about the sound, but about the image. I see centrality in everything, symmetry, rotation, but always counterclockwise. Can you explain? And each of those movements kind of normally would be associated with a kind of classicism almost.
Yes. But also, I don't know, these things weren't created with that in mind.
No.
That way.
Huh? But nevertheless, it's quite surprising to see such a dedication to symmetry and centrality.
Yes.
Can you say something about it?
Well, in this instance, this was these recordings were generated using a computer system with a graphic input. So the audio which you heard at a substandard level was derived from drawings, and these drawings had symmetrical and rotational and these different methods of composition were applied to this process. But I'm quite interested in the synesthetic experience from making drawings, turning them into sound, being a non-musician. So they exist, but they're not the core of my interests. Is that reasonable?
But how, as a non-musician, did it come that you started to work with sound? Can you tell us somehow about the beginning? And I was very interested in finding out more to which extent kind of software generated your kind of sound. And I mean, you use a lot of generative audio software, and I remember your concert in Yokohama had all to do with a laptop, where it all sort of converts. So I was somehow wondering if you could describe a little bit how this started and evolved.
Okay. I guess my interest in these areas came when I was at art school and trying to draw, but also trying to make sound. And being a non-musician, I was quite excited by the fact that you could actually draw a waveform and start to play on these microtonal levels, this microscopic level. And I guess probably about 1990, or probably just prior to that, 1989, I guess I had my first experiences of using computer software where you could physically draw the waveform. And from then on, it became a preoccupation of mine to try to find ways to draw sound. And I guess for any time between now and then, I've been spending most of my time trying to find these possibilities and trying to utilize any software that had been made in this fashion. If it hadn't been made already, then I guess I've been starting to work with people that could realize those things for me.
And were there any kind of toolboxes or kind of composers from the past who were somehow helpful in the definition of this trajectory? I mean, you referred
Xenakis is the only one, surely. Yeah, but, primarily in the sense that he developed this computer music system where you do draw the sound. And that's something that I've been working on, the possibility to use that system, and managed to do that. And
you revisited Xenakis actually together with Heckcock. Can you tell us somehow maybe about?
No, we didn't meet. We didn't visit him. We worked in his studio, and with his devices. But we, well, he was no longer with us at that time, unfortunately.
And what did you do with his work? You just used the studio?
We used his graphic input music system, which is called Upic.
And is that used here or not?
Yes.
Yeah. You know he did a pavilion kind of once?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And there is a good degree of similarity between, or I recognize the shapes.
Yeah.
So how is it, people have talked about ghosts today?
I don't believe in ghosts.
Okay. Well.
I only believe in the physical and
so
the real.
So there's no ghost, huh?
There's no ghost, there's no God.
But what there clearly is there is an increasing invasion of brutal insects, and I have an image here in front of me called The Brutal Truth from 2002, which sort of fits the context of tonight perfectly because it's all about insects. I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about
it was a piece, it was something that I made when I was on an artist residency program in Stockholm on a program called Jaspis, and I spent 9 months there, which was longer than I should have been there because somebody was kicked off the program for being a necrophiliac, and it fucked up the program. And anyway, consequently, I stayed there longer, and I made a piece called The Brutal Truth, which was a video of cockroaches which I'd managed to acquire in Stockholm from a reptile shop because people feed them to their whatever lizards and snakes and so on. And I decided that it was quite interesting to actually slaughter these cockroaches with Chanel nail varnish, which I proceeded to do and document. It also became for me a process to create automatic drawings, because when you apply Chanel nail varnish to a cockroach, its legs and its underbelly start to draw trails until the nail varnish sticks to the body and it can no longer move, and then it stops and becomes encased in a hard nail varnish shell, encapsulated, which produces quite a nice drawing, or physical drawing, that includes this insect. And with the, I don't know, for me at the time, art was quite a little bit more popularist than my attitude as an individual. So I don't know, this was that piece was really an attack of what I saw was considered to be popularist at the time, which is something that, I don't know, I'm a bit more objectionable than that, really. Sorry.
Do you have a next question? No. Actually, I have some more questions. One of the things I was curious, because when we discussed sound tonight on numerous occasions, we kind of tried to establish the link to the city, and Brian Eno, with whom we started the marathon tonight, it's not really a point of, carrying sound into the city. It's really difficult to compete with the city. So there's obviously this other question, to which extent the sound of the city would enter the work of somebody who works with sound. So I was wondering if you could maybe answer these 2 points. If there is a kind of a moment where you, Square Pusher was sort of talking about bringing Aphex Twin, I think, into the London Underground. So
I guess there's a lot of possibilities in this city. Yeah. I don't know.
But in relation to your practice, I mean, to pin it down to really your work, do you kind of intervene in the city with sort of
I think
sound,
I used to, but at the moment, or currently, what I'm attempting to do is to try and remove myself from those scenarios, so that hopefully there's appropriate concert houses and venues to present things. But the way that London seems to be facilitated at the moment, there isn't really any appropriate venues of the appropriate sizes with the appropriate sound system to really work in this city compared to the other metropolises in the world.
But that's interesting, because we've been discussing tonight a lot also kind of, models of sort of cultural institutions, and maybe, John Littlewood's and Cedric Price's Fan Palace was mentioned, a lot of that. So you think there is a kind of a missing institution in London in relation to that?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Can you describe,
there's nothing
describe how this institution would work? What is missing?
A good music venue, really. Something that's in between music, the exhibition of contemporary art, I guess. I don't know, I remember experiencing in Europe, particularly places like Vienna and Switzerland in the early 90s, you could go and do a concert in a museum, and when those kind of things happened at that time. I remember coming back to England thinking, well, why don't they do that in London? Why don't we have concerts at the Tate? Why don't we? And so on and so forth. But actually now they're beginning to do that. I guess programming becomes an issue then, and who is chosen to play or present their work. I think there's a lot missing from this city.
How do you think?
I mean, that's kind of really interesting to hear, because you're the first one not to complain but to make negative comments. I mean, the whole evening has been so far an almost unadulterated declaration of satisfaction to the city.
Well, I just
so
left.
It's kind of
I left. I'm out of here, man.
So it's actually very refreshing to hear something missing.
I think there's a lot missing, really.
Okay.
What else is missing?
Oh shit, Jesus. Where do we start? It's endless, the list. Well, I don't know. Give me a clue. A good cinema? A good nightclub? A museum that we're really happy with?
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Not here, though. Not yet.
So I think this is a perfect moment to end.
Yet I have a last question.
No.
I do have a last question, kind of urgent, which is that I wanted to ask you if there kind of are projects of yours which are yet unrealized, which sort of projects too big to have been realized or censored, the kind of unbuilt roads of Russell.
Yes, I'm trying to make a film at the moment. A 35mm film which has no image.
No image. Sound.
Many thanks to Russell Haswell. Thank you very much.